Hey everybody, welcome to Active Self-Protection Extra and John's Briefs here again with Terry Johnson from Firearms Legal Protection. I want to pick a fight today. That's straight up. So if the legal system and having a good fight and really talking about tough stuff is not for you, then pass this one by. But today I want to talk a little bit about the Defund the Police movement and what we mean by that and what that would mean and what that would look like. And let's talk about it with the one who makes his living off the legal system.
Today's video is brought to us by Firearms Legal Protection. Firearms Legal Protection is a legal defense program for lawful gun owners with a 24/7 emergency hotline and plans designed specifically for self-defenders. They are offering a discount on their plan to ASP fans, so hit the link in the description for that.
So I don't have to deal with this. If we do this kind of stuff, it doesn't affect my world near as much as it affects your world. And I think that I would guess probably more of my audience here on ASP Extra is probably right-leaning politically rather than left-leaning. That's probably a safe bet. But I want to talk about this issue of defunding the police, because I think that my right-leaning friends look at it one way, my left-leaning friends look at it in a different way. And then me, as a neither lefty nor a righty, but a kind of live and let live libertarian, has a different spin on it entirely. And then I want to get your thoughts on this, okay? So my friends who are on the right here defund the police, and they just hear, take the money away, get rid of cops, and lawlessness. I think my friends on the left here, let's take money, let's ask the police to do less, and instead send other people, so fund community initiatives and social work and those things rather than more cops. And I think my libertarian friends are like, why do any of these institutions exist to begin with? Like, what is going on here? Why don't we should have, that's not libertarianism, that's anarchy, that's a different story. But so when you hear that, Terry, as an attorney, as somebody who defends people in court every day, and you're not, so you're a criminal defense attorney. You're like,
yes,
defending the guys that the cops have already arrested. What do you hear when you hear that?
Well, I'll give you my personal stance.
Okay.
My personal stance on this is, if you defund the police, less police leads to more crime.
Okay.
I firmly believe you have to have, even if it's a police car that's out there, even if it's signs that, hey, police are in the area, people, once they see that, they have a different level of A, security, and maybe even B, fear. And what do I mean by fear?
Let's be straight. Who's driven by a cop car sitting on the side of the road and slowed down?
Absolutely.
We've all done it. Let's be real.
Right. And I don't believe that taking money away from police and giving it to social workers per se, you've got someone who has a mental issue and they've got a gun or a knife, but you're going to send someone with, a social worker into a situation to try and calm someone down. I don't think that's going to work too well because, again, seeing what goes on the streets on a daily basis, seeing how people are actually acting. And I'm not referring to the people that are more fluent because, again, sometimes, money does make people do different things. Let's just call it what it is.
It's true. Your people are people the world over, but from a socioeconomic perspective, rich people domestic fights tend to be different than middle class people domestic fights tend to be different than poor people's domestic fights. Just does. You're fighting over different stuff. Absolutely.
And here, if you take away a tool in the arsenal of the public, which is the police, imagine every police force losing 10% right off the top, just 10% of its officers. What do you think that's going to look like out there? You're going to start with, think about it. You're going to start with traffic alone. More people are not going to, they're not going to slow down when they see, those cars on the side of the road. You've got less people getting pulled over. Well, think about it. If people are getting pulled over on the road now, a majority of the problems you run into or the encounters are generally from moving. And what do I mean by moving? People on the road, police making a traffic stop. You find people with warrants. You find drugs in the car. You find guns with people who shouldn't have them. A lot of those things are going to go away because now you've cut back by 10%. Some of the other things that the police do that we don't even know about, some of the units that they've put, some of the undercover units and things that go on in the schools would have to be cut. So I don't believe that defunding the police is the right way to do do. Now, if you want to put more money in other places, let's take it out of certain places and put it there. But the police, in my opinion, is that's a pillar that needs to be firmly implanted into the ground and should never be reduced unless the funds just aren't there.
Well, and I think the rule of law is important as long as the law is just. That's to me. If
What does that mean? The law is just.
So I think that we should have, the overlap. There's not every law is a moral issue, but that every law should be moral at its core. That it should be in line with what is right ethically.
Stopping at a stop sign. Well, let me give you a better one. So why is it in this part of the road I can do 30 miles an hour?
Stepping into my realm.
I love it. I love it. Here we go. On this road, I can do 30 miles an hour, but the road down there, I can only do 40. Why is that? How is that moral or just? What does that have to do with morality?
So I think that here's one of my big things. Ready? Here's the thing. If you want to actually defund the police, I think the way to do it is get rid of 80% of laws on the books. Is remove all the stuff that they have to enforce. Just completely end the drug war right now.
Legalize it.
Yep, legalize it. I think that if you're not hurting somebody else with it, if you want to smoke crack, smoke crack. I wouldn't smoke crack. I think crack is bad for you. I don't like methamphetamines, right? So, but Mexican Americans have rights too. Okay, but I don't think it should be illegal. Like, again, to harm someone else, to drive while under the influence and hurt somebody, I think that's now I've caused an actual harm. But to be honest,
interesting.
Anybody notice during the Corona panic? Like, did traffic evaporate in your neck of the woods and you had the Corona ball run in your town? Like, we had a couple months in Arizona, baby. You could do 95 miles an hour down the highway and nobody gave a darn. And it was glorious, quite frankly, and because nobody was being harmed. Now you might say, well, but there's more traffic and those things. So now the traffic has come back. So straight up, I'm going to be real with you guys, and I'm going to tell you the John Correa way, okay? I drive a car with a lot of horsepower. And I don't drive that car.
He does. It's a nice car, too.
I don't drive a lot of horsepower car to go slow. My wife goes nuts about it. But I drove down the freeway in Phoenix not the other day, this was several months ago because of Corona, and I was doing 100 miles an hour down the road. Yay, my car can do it, no problem. I have the driving skill to do it, no problem. Nobody got hurt, so was there any moral wrong? I do not believe there was. And all speed limits are suggestions given traffic conditions. Now the traffic has come up again, so I'm not driving 100 miles an hour. Not because the law says not to, there's too many people on the road to. So I don't think the speed limit did anything. I think all it does is give an opportunity for me to have an interaction with police and for the government to steal money out of my pocket because they don't like me.
Interesting. So let me ask a question. What if you're doing 100 miles an hour down the road and you are drunk?
Now, okay, so now when we're setting into a drunk driving area, I think...
Or high, whatever.
So now we're talking about driving while impaired, all right, in any capacity. I think certainly the problem is that your risk of problems go up significantly and you get to some level, right? And that's what speed is, that level. There's at some level they say. So
let me, and sorry to interrupt, but let me ask this question. If that's the case, how does an officer know that, let's say the officer pulls you over, you're doing, let's say you're doing 70. You're drunk, but you haven't done anything wrong. You haven't swerved. You're still within the speed limit. You haven't hit anyone. There's no complaints that you've done anything. So under your theory, I should just move right along and God bless America.
I think no wrong being done here. No actual harm to anyone being done. Now, I know that.
So you're okay to let me go.
Now, listen, I am, and I'm a guy that's been rear-ended by a drunk driver. Being rear-ended by a drunk driver cost me my commission as a naval officer, cost me a couple $100,000 in salary, 2 surgeries on my back. That was a moral wrong, right? Because he actually hit me with his car. But if you go all these potential wrongs, how many potential wrongs do we want to make illegal? I personally view those, I want minimal. So you say somebody who's a drug addict can very potentially cause wrongs to their family, to their loved ones. They can become criminals by stealing and all this. These are all potential wrongs. They're not actual wrongs. I think we clean out our prison system of nonviolent drug offenders and we save $50 billion a year and invest that in our social infrastructures, or God forbid, lower taxes, or pay off the $11 trillion worth of debt we have. Right. So I kind of have the mindset that from a legal system, where we've created a problem is we've got so many laws to enforce that we make all these reasons for police officers to have interaction with people. My friend Greg Ellifritz, a retired cop, one of the best peace officers I've ever known from a suburb of Cleveland. And he had a big thing for rookie cops. He said, don't write people tickets for burned out taillights. And the reason is you write a poor man a ticket for a burnout taillight, and now he can't take off work to fix that and get it in time. So then he gets a warrant sworn out for him because he can't get that thing fixed and taken care of because he's got to go to work. Well, then the next time he gets pulled over, now he's got a warrant he's got to get hooked up on.
Right.
Then he gets to spend a night in jail. His car gets impounded. He can't afford to get it taken out. Next thing you know, he loses his job. Now he's got to go to court. He can't afford to do that. So then the next time they hook him up, he ends up in jail for a taillight out.
So what you're suggesting is discriminating right against just rich people only, the ones that can afford it.
Well, I'm saying instead.
Is that fair?
I'm saying instead, listen, if we decrease the amount that they have to enforce, because every law, let's be real, every single law at its core is enforced by threat of violence. Every single law that you put on the books, you say, this is so important to me, I will lock you in a cage or kill you if you don't do it.
Okay.
Everyone. Now, okay, this is me where, okay, tinfoil hat, whoop, right? And then people go, no, not every law, John. I don't threaten violence on everyone. Oh, but you do. Again, that taillight turns into a failure to appear. So again, a police officer comes up to me and says, drive slower. And I go, no, I'm perfectly safe driving the speed I'm driving. And he says, no, you're going to drive slower or I'm going to fine you. No. Well, if you don't pay the fine, I'm going to throw you in a cage. No. Well, if you won't go in the cage, I'm going to force you to go in the cage. No. Do you see where I'm going? We end up in force. So everything that's what I'm pro cop.
But it's not force, it's choice.
It's threat of force.
But it's choice.
Threat of force.
You have a choice. And America's built on choice. And the moment, it's just like right now, I can decide whether to wear a mask or not. But if I don't, there's a consequence to it. That's a choice.
And it is, but again, that choice is enforced. The core word of enforce is force. I will force you to do so, or you will start paying consequences. Now, it might start as a fine. We've recently had people thrown in jail because they wouldn't wear a mask outdoors in public.
But don't we do that with our kids? Don't we raise our kids to teach them that you make choices, and the choices you make in life are where we're going to go?
Until such time as they have agency on their own.
Correct.
And
once they do, but again, what we're doing is we're mirroring society by teaching our kids, even at a young level, son, you can do this or you could do that. If you do this, you may fall down and scrape your knee. You don't ride your bike without a helmet, something bad can happen.
I suppose I hear that and I actually like that. But to me, so the way that we tried to raise our kids, and one of my children is here, so he'll call me on my crap on this, is what we called love and logic, right? We didn't call it that. That's a book. There's a book by the name of Love and Logic that we organize things around natural consequences rather than arbitrary consequences. So I think a lot of our legal system is arbitrary consequences rather than natural consequences. So you say, if you do X, then you have a natural consequence of Y. So in other words, if you don't brush your teeth will fall out of your head. Instead of, if you don't brush your teeth, you're grounded for a week. Well, what does the action that I did have to do with the punishment? So if you don't listen, and if you drive faster than we said was okay, we will lock you in a cage. Well, wait a minute. Instead, we say, if you drive faster than we recommend on this road, then you're much more likely to cause someone else an injury. And there is a great consequence if you cause someone else an injury, because now you're going to have to deal with their liberty.
But under your theory, you're saying, well, doesn't matter. I'm good at what I'm doing. In other words, I can drive 20, 30, 40 miles over the speed limit. As long as I'm not injuring someone, it's okay.
I absolutely 100% say that. Yes.
But when you injure someone,
now you're accountable for that because you've impinged on the right of another. So as a libertarian, we call that the non-aggression principle, which has its limits, okay? I'm not saying this is an unlimited principle or that there shouldn't be any limits on it.
I gotcha.
But as a limited rule, we only enforce things that have actual consequences on someone else. Now that to me would defund so much of the police because there would be so many fewer laws and give us a whole lot for other people.
So let me ask this question. So what laws would you want to see that would be on the books? Because I had a neighbor of mine that ran for a state office, state rep, and he said, first thing I would want to do is say, we're not going to pass any more laws. We're going to enforce what's on the books. And we need to actually get rid of some. Pretty much what you're saying. But here's my question.
What do we need to defund?
Politicians.
Oh,
We need to defund
That's
Congress
right.
is what we need to defund.